This was supposed to be a routine flight, just another business trip for Jasmine Carter. But what started as a simple journey turned into a nightmare when the airline staff decided to target her. Little did they know, their careers would be over before the plane even touched the ground. This is the story of how one woman's quiet confidence and strategic thinking brought down an entire flight crew in midair. Section 1. A routine flight turns ugly. Jasmine Carter, a 32-year-old marketing executive with a sharp mind and an even sharper eye for detail, had just wrapped up an exhausting business trip. She had booked her first-class ticket months in advance, treating herself to the luxury she could now afford after years of hard work. As she settled into her spacious seat, she exhaled, ready to relax for the next few hours. But the moment the flight attendants noticed her, their welcoming smiles turned into cold, assessing stares. One of them, a blonde woman with a pinched expression, approached Jasmine with an air of skepticism. "Excuse me, ma'am," the flight attendant said, her tone dripping with condescension. "Are you sure you're in the right section?" Jasmine, accustomed to these subtle but unmistakable jabs, kept her expression neutral as she handed over her boarding pass. "Yes, I'm in 3A. First class." The attendant barely glanced at it before handing it back with a tight smile. "Must be nice," she muttered under her breath, just loud enough for Jasmine to hear. Things only got worse from there. Every request Jasmine made, water, a blanket, even just a simple acknowledgement, was met with eye rolls, exaggerated sighs, or outright ignoring. At one point, she overheard two attendants whispering near the galley. "Probably used points or something," one snickered. "You know how they love to act entitled." Jasmine clenched her jaw but remained composed. She had dealt with this kind of treatment before, but today, she was prepared. As the flight progressed, the attendant's behavior grew bolder. When Jasmine politely asked for another drink, the same blonde flight attendant smirked and said, "Maybe you should have flown economy if you wanted faster service." That was the final straw. Jasmine had dealt with racism in corporate settings, in stores, even in restaurants, but she refused to let it slide here. Reaching into her pocket, she discreetly tapped her phone, activating the voice memo app. She positioned it just enough to catch every word. For the next 20 minutes, she endured their snide remarks, their laughter, their barely concealed disdain. One attendant even leaned over to another and said, loud enough for Jasmine to hear, "I can't believe they let people like her sit up here." That was all the evidence she needed. Because Jasmine Carter wasn't just any passenger. She was the newly appointed vice president of corporate relations for the largest investor in Sky High Airlines. And she had just captured everything on tape. While the plane cruised smoothly at 30,000 feet, Jasmine calmly opened her laptop and connected to the in-flight Wi-Fi. She worked quickly, her fingers flying over the keyboard. First, she drafted an email to the CEO of Sky High Airlines. She attached the audio clip and wrote a concise but scathing message. "Is this the kind of service your first-class passengers can expect? Listen to how your staff treats someone who paid full price for this seat. I'll be forwarding this to the board." Next, she opened Twitter and tagged the airline's official account in a cryptic but ominous post. "About to make some in-flight changes. Stay tuned." Finally, she texted her boss, the billionaire investor who owned a 25% stake in the airline. "We have a serious problem. Just sent you something. Call me when we land." She hit send, then leaned back in her seat, exhaling slowly. The response was almost immediate. Within minutes, the flight attendants' phones began buzzing. One by one, they pulled them out, their faces draining of color as they read the messages. "Report to HR immediately upon landing. Your employment is under review." The looks on their faces were priceless. As the plane began its descent, the atmosphere in the cabin shifted dramatically. The attendants who had been so bold earlier were now whispering frantically to each other, casting nervous glances in Jasmine's direction. One of them, the same blonde woman who had mocked her earlier, approached Jasmine with trembling hands. "Ma'am," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. We didn't realize." Jasmine cut her off with a cool, level stare. "Oh, you realized exactly what you were doing." The attendant opened her mouth to protest, but Jasmine simply turned away, signaling the conversation was over. When the plane finally touched down and taxied to the gate, Jasmine was the first to stand. As she gathered her things, she noticed the flight attendants huddled together, their earlier arrogance completely gone. Waiting at the gate were two men in suits, executives from the airline. They approached Jasmine immediately, their expressions a mix of apology and panic. "Ms. Carter," one of them said, extending a hand. "On behalf of Sky High Airlines, we deeply apologize for the unacceptable behavior of our staff. Rest assured, this matter will be dealt with immediately." Jasmine simply nodded. "I'll be expecting a full report." By the end of the day, all 3 flight attendants involved were terminated. The airline issued a public apology. Mandatory sensitivity training was enforced across all staff. And Jasmine. She didn't just get revenge, she changed the entire airline's policies. The story spread like wildfire. News outlets picked it up, social media exploded, and comments poured in from people who had faced similar discrimination. Karma came fast. Never judge a passenger by their skin color. This is why you treat everyone with respect. Jasmine's message was clear: discrimination will always backfire. As for the flight crew, they learned the hard way: never underestimate the quiet woman in first class. What would you have done in this situation? Have you ever faced discrimination while traveling? Let us know in the comments below. And if you love stories where the underdog wins, don't forget to like and subscribe for more jaw-dropping tales of justice served.